Hey folks, Martin here, back from the MicFlayers podcast, and in this week's episode we're going to follow on from last week's video about creating unique magic items in 5e by going through the actual crafting rules in 5e and seeing how they work and explaining how you can use them to make some really cool magic items if you are a player or a DM. So let's jump over onto D&D Beyond and get started. Hey folks, we're back on the homepage of D&D Beyond. So I'm going to show you where you can find the rules and then explain how to use them, and then I'm going to give you an example of how to use them to make a specific magic item that I've picked out here. Now, you will need one specific book in order to do this properly, and that is Xanthar's Guide to Everything. That's where the downtime activities rules are, which include crafting regular items but also crafting magic items. So if you have Xanthar's, you're just going to need to go into your sources here, and we'll go to Xanthar's Guide to Everything. And from our contents page here, what we're looking for is in the Dungeon Master's Tools section. There's actually lots of really great stuff in Xanthar's. I would highly recommend picking it up. That and Tash's, I think, are probably two of the best source books we currently have. But yes, getting back to the point of the video, we're going to go over here to downtime activities. And then under here we have a list of everything that you can do on downtime. And what we're looking for here is crafting an item. So we're going to go here. Now, the first chunk of this is just really to do with normal items, like non-magical items really, and sort of what tools you need to make them. There is actually an important piece of info here for our purposes with creating a magic item, and it is that in order to create a magic item, you need to be proficient with the tool set required to make it. So for example, if you have proficiency with smith's tools, you can make weapons, you can make armor, that kind of stuff. And as well, if you are proficient in arcana, you can also do go ahead and chip in on the actual crafting itself. But the stuff we really need here is basically from here on down, crafting magic items. So I'll just read this out here. So creating a magic item requires more than just time, effort and materials. It's a long-term process that involves one or more adventures to track down rare materials and the lore needed to create them. Potions of healing and spell scrolls are the exceptions to the following rules, and we will get on to crafting potions of healing and spell scrolls, because they're both very useful. But the main things you need here, as I say here, is to start with a character needs a formula for a magic item in order to create it. The formula, like a recipe, lists the materials needed and the steps required to make the item. The general rule is the more powerful an item you want to make, the more rare and unique the components of the formula are going to be. So we can see it here if we skip down to our magic item ingredients table here. So it's broken into item rarity and CR range, CR for challenge rating. So if you want to create a common magic item, something not super powerful, it just doesn't have any particularly powerful effects or anything, you'd only need a creature of CR range 1 to 3. When we stepped it up to uncommon, now we're starting to get into the 4 to 8 CR range, rare 9 to 12, very rare 13 to 18, legendary 19 plus. And yeah, you can see it requires a bit of investment really if you want to make a magic item. Now of course your DM will still put magic items in your world for you to find. It's a key part of the game. Certain classes can't even function without magic items as you get into the later game. But yeah, so this will be our main guide here, where the rarity of the item corresponds to a certain CR range, and they give us some good examples here. So for example, creating a mariner's armor might require the essence of a water weird. Creating a staff of charming might require the cooperation of a specific arcanoloth, who will only help the characters complete a task. Will only help if the characters create a task for it. Making a staff of power might hinge on acquiring a piece of an ancient stone that was once touched by the god of magic, a stone now guarded by a suspicious androsphinx. So they give us some really good examples there of like quest lines, because what you're doing here is let's say a player comes to you and wants to make a specific magic item, they will make that item, but what you're doing as a DM is you're basically creating a quest line for this. You're gonna put a creature somewhere in your world, or a quest line somewhere in your world, that will result in them acquiring the right pieces and the right monster bits and other kind of alchemical ingredients to actually go ahead and create your magic item. Now, this is where we get into the real kind of crunch of it. In addition to facing a specific creature, creating an item comes with a gold piece cost covering other materials, tools and so on based on the item's rarity, and these also increase as well as it goes along. Those values, as well as the time a character needs to work in order to complete the item, are shown in the magic item crafting time and cost table. have the listed price and creation time for any consumable items. So if your players are making like potions, or if they're making scrolls, or just like disposable magic items, basically, you can have the cost and the work weeks, which is really, really great. It's super useful for consumables, but for everything else, this is basically how it all shakes out. So you can combine this table with the table above, and you can kind of work out what you would need in order to do it. So let's say you want to make a very rare magic item. Well, then you're going to need to go on a quest and defeat a creature of CR between 13 and 18 to do that. And then once you have the necessary components of the actual formula to make the magic item, then we come down here to the crafting time and cost table. Very rare, we can see here 25 work weeks and 20,000 gold pieces. Now that's a very significant investment of both time and gold here. 20,000 gold pieces is not an insignificant amount of money, particularly for your players, and 25 work weeks is a very significant amount of time. An awful lot can happen in that time. This is why this is typically something that's done on downtime. Downtime is something your DM can decide on at any point. You, as players, if you come together as a group and decide you'd like some downtime, you can approach your DM and ask them to give you some downtime sometime soon in the story where it's appropriate, and then you can do stuff like these, like working on magic items and creating new magic items. So in order to complete a magic item, a character also needs whatever tool proficiency is appropriate, and as for crafting a non-magical object or proficiency in Arcana, just as we said there. And if all requirements are met, the result of the process is a magic item of the desired sort. The really great thing about Xanatars is not only did it give us lots of really great player options in terms of like classes and stuff like that, but it gave us these really good rules for crafting. Now, some of the costs and work weeks I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, I honestly, like, I understand it's a legendary, but I do think 50 work weeks and 100,000 gold pieces is it's a little much really to create a legendary item. I think it could be less. I'm not sure exactly where I put that. I'd need to think about that for a while. But I do think the upper echelon tiers where it's 20k and 100k gold pieces and 25 or 50 work weeks, yeah, I think that could maybe do with some retooling. The rest are pretty solid, and I have actually created a number of magic items with my players using the system of these three rarities. So it is very much usable, and it's actually quite good in my opinion, particularly for these three rarities: common, uncommon, and rare. It's just when you get to the higher rarities, I think it can be a little much in terms of the investment needed, but it's at least it's clear, and it's very clear what you need to do. Now, creating them, you don't just create them. Like, once you have all the fireball and stuff fulfilled, and you have the required gold and work weeks, it's not just as simple as bang bang bang, you're done, you've created the magic item, you can put down your hammer and your tools and whatever else. When you're creating a magic item, there can be complications, and complications, while it can be a bit nerve-wracking if you're the one creating the magic item, they really just open up a lot of interesting new stories that can just spin out of you just creating a magic item here. And what they've done that I actually really like, I really like when they give us these D6 tables, because you can either use them to roll randomly, or you can just pick one, and they're usually full of really great suggestions. So if we look here, on a roll of 1, rumor swirl, what you're working on is unstable and a threat to the community, and there's a little asterisk beside this because this might involve a rival. Which is something that we can jump to here at the top of the thing. So a rival is an NPC who opposes the characters and makes their presence felt whenever the characters are engaging in downtime. It can be like a friendly rivalry or an unfriendly rivalry, but it's basically an NPC that can interact with your players, can just kind of provide new story opportunities in downtime. So when we're looking at our downtime activities here, it's crafting an item, and we'll just go back down to this here with complications. So there are a number of these here where your rival can get involved, and an NPC also gets involved, but there's some other ones as well. And these are, again, this is presented as a random table, but if you're a DM doing this, you can just pick one if you think one works better for the story and the character. So yeah, again, 1, rumor swirl that what you're working on is unstable and a threat to the community. 2, your tools are stolen, forcing you to buy new ones. 3, a local wizard shows keen interest in your work and insists on observing you. 4, a powerful noble offers a hefty price for your work and is not interested in hearing no for an answer. 5, a dwarf clan accuses you of stealing its secret lore to fuel your work. And 6, a competitor spreads rumors that your work is shoddy and prone to failure. Now, these are all, like, to be honest, I actually like pretty much all of them. there are a couple of different angles you can take. This is almost like a mad scientist thread. This one you can get involved in some like inter-family or inter-company kind of espionage here. A powerful noble offers you a hefty price and isn't willing to accept no as an answer. You could spiral that out into that could end up with the party on the wrong side of a monarchy in a specific kingdom, and that's a whole storyline you can bring out of that here. Tools are stolen, forcing you to buy new ones. This is, out of all of them, this is the one I see the most shenanigans happening, but that may just be because of the party I DM for. All of these really, really good. Here's where we get into a bit more specifics about the creation of healing potions. As was mentioned earlier, if you have a herbalism kit, you can use that to create healing potions. And what's really great is because they are consumables, they do not have the same burden of work, time, and cost that creating a permanent magic item does have. So if we look here, we have our major types of health potion series. So we have the standard healing potion, greater healing potion, superior healing potion, and supreme healing potion, which is the big daddy. It's the ultimate one. So if we look at them all, if you have a herbalism kit, it will only take you a day and 25 gold pieces to make a potion of healing, which is pretty much exactly what it would cost you to buy one. But you don't have to go looking for it, which is pretty sweet. Potion of greater healing then, that will take you a work week and it will cost 100 gold pieces, but again it's going up from 2d4 plus 2 for regular healing to 4d4 plus 4 for greater healing, and you can see that's our scale working for the two major, the big healing potions, which is the superior and the supreme. The superior is 3 work weeks and 1,000 gold pieces, which is a decent amount of gold investment for just one potion, but I think with a superior healing it's worth it for the amount of healing you're getting. And then supreme is, I would say, is even more. 10,000 is a bit much, I think, but like you can make a superior healing potion for 1,000 gold pieces. That's pretty sick. And again, obviously it's a much shorter time and much less gold investment for the actual item that you're crafting, because it is disposable. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go ahead and we're going to pick out a magic item that is, we'll go for a very rare here. The magic items that are of a higher level, they tend to have more components to their abilities. They tend to have 2, maybe 3 different abilities or benefits that they can give you, and because of that you can usually use those to make a little more interesting magic items. Maybe it's like a multi-quest thing to make this magic item. So what we'll do here is we'll do a quick jump cut and we'll be over onto our magic item, and then I will run through how we're going to come up with the formula for this as if we were the DM. What we would give to a player and tell them to do, and then maybe some example quests on that we would put in the world for that player. Okay, so I have gone ahead and picked the Cloak of Arachnida. It's a very rare wondrous item. It's a fine garment made of black silk interwoven with faint silvery threads. While wearing it, you gain the following benefits. You have resistance to poison damage, you gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed, you can move up, down and across vertical surfaces and upside down along ceilings, while also leaving your hands free. You can't be caught in webs of any sort and can move through them as if they were difficult terrain, and with your action you can use that to cast the web spell with a DC of 13, and then the web that this creates fills twice the normal area it would. And also importantly, once this web spell has been cast, you can't do so again until the next dawn. So there are, I would say, 3 main components to the benefits of this particular item. The biggest benefit, I would say, is the poison resistance. Then we have what I would class as basically the next 3 points, these 3 points. I would class them all as movement abilities, so you gain a climbing speed, you can move up, down and across vertical surfaces and ceilings without your hands, and then you can't be caught in webs of any sort and can move through them as if they were difficult terrain. So those are the 3 movement related abilities, and then we just need the ability to cast a web spell. So what we're going to be looking for here is a creature that either does or is resistant to poison damage, and then a creature that has a climbing speed, can move across vertical surfaces and upside down on ceilings, and also, if we can find it, something that can move through webs or move along webs or uses webs in that way. And then finally, if it's something that has like a web attack or casts the web spell or a web ability, that would all be super, super, super good for what we're looking for. So what we'll do here is we'll jump over onto the monsters section of D&D Beyond. Now, I think the easiest way we can filter this down, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, but the advanced filters in D&D Beyond are actually really, really good. So first things first, we'll show the advanced filters, and that gives us a bunch of stuff like alignment, armor class range, hit points range, senses resistance, damage immunities, all that stuff. What we're looking for here though is movement type, because we want something that can climb. So we'll put in climb, and then we'll put in our challenge range, so 13 to 18 for our very rare item. And if you want to get into environments as well, you can, but I think this should be enough for us to get what we're looking for here. Let's see, so we'll filter by CR, and straight away we get two really good suggestions actually. We'll avoid the legacy one just for now, just because it doesn't have to be later suits, but we have the Drow Arachnomancer. That one's very, very promising. So let's see. 30 feet of climb, that's perfect, so that's part of it sorted. It has spider climb already, so that's 2 out of 3 of the movement abilities. And web walker, perfect, the Drow ignores movement restrictions caused by webbing. So we've all our 3 movement related abilities sorted already. So that's one aspect of it sorted. We're now looking for, it is resistant to poison. Perfect. So resistance to poison, that's 2 out of 3 sorted. It also does poison in its attack, so even if it wasn't resistant, I would say that with this you could do it. And then we have the web ability, recharge 5 to 6, range weapon attack, 30-60. It's basically the web spell, which is awesome. So that's all three of our major components that we need for our magic item sorted. So we have everything we need now, so we can use the Drow Arachnomancer as the creature that our party needs to go after. So let's go ahead and just have a look more closely at this, so we can try and figure out what pieces we want to tell our characters that they need to collect. The description is always a really good place to go, just to get more info about the creature you're looking into, what any kind of society it may have, or habits it may have, or layers it may have. So Drow spellcasters who seek to devote themselves wholly to Lolth, the Spider Queen, sometimes walk the sinister path of the Arachnomancer. By offering up body and soul to Lolth, they gain tremendous power and a supernatural connection to the ancient spiders of the demon web pits, channeling magic from that dread place. So this is perfect. It's literally a spider magician. Let's look at the picture a little closer. So we've got a multiple-eyed Drow in sort of like medium armor with 2 what look like other humanoids wrapped up in cocoons. Right, so if I was DMing and a player came to me and said they wanted to make the Cloak of Arachnida, I would, like, straight away you're going to be thinking spiders anyway, because it's called the Cloak of Arachnida. But when after finding this, I think what I would ask my players to get would be maybe an eye or 2 from the Drow Arachnomancer after it's been slain, and maybe like you want to go like the cursed monkey's paw, because they seem to be able to extrude the webs from their hands. We could go ahead with that, and you could like take a hand and like preserve it and then bring it back, and yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. So if I would, let's say for the Cloak of Arachnida here, I would say that you would have to defeat a Drow Arachnomancer, and you would need to harvest at least 2 eyes from it and at least 1 hand. And with the eyes and the hand, and then the 25 work weeks and 20,000 gold pieces, I would say you successfully create this cloak, and then we can go and we can roll for any kind of crafting complications that arise out of this. Some of this may be directly related to the quest you went on to get your components. Like if you go and you kill a Drow Arachnomancer, Lolth and the Drow are not going to take that well. So maybe rather than one of these complications, one of the complications that comes from you making the Cloak of Arachnida is now the Drow are pissed at you and they're coming after you because you killed an Arachnomancer, and Arachnomancers are powerful and important figures to Lolth. So you can see, like, even if you don't use these 6 options that they have, which are really great options, I must say, they're nice and broad that you can write around them and use them more like a writing prompt as a DM. But even if you don't, the actions your players take, and depending on what kind of creatures that they have to kill to get the components for the magic item formula, to do that, they may trigger unforeseen consequences with whatever cultures or civilizations or creatures that inhabit the area that the targeted creature lives in. Just to give a quick run through of everything again. So let's say your player wants to make an item. So as a variant item, you're going to need a creature of CR 13 to 18. You're going to need 25 work weeks and 20,000 gold pieces to make it. And to make it, you'll need a magic item formula of at least 2 eyes of a Drow Arachnomancer and a hand of a Drow Arachnomancer to go ahead and create that. I would also say that a fine cloak would be something that they need to get as well, to imbue these pieces of the creature and their magical essence into transforming it into a cloak of Arachnida. But yeah, that's pretty much the basics of crafting in 5e, folks. Pretty much all of it. And everything you need to know the rules for crafting, you can find in Xanathar's. If you haven't gotten Xanathar's, I would highly, highly recommend it. It's got some great player options and it's some really, really amazing tools for DMs like this, and lots of really fun and interesting stuff for you to explore with your party. But look, that's it for today, folks. I want to say thank you so much for joining me for another video on MicFlayers here. This one is a bit of a follow-on from last week's episode, so if you haven't watched last week's video about making unique magic items for your party, I would actually highly recommend giving that a look if you're a DM looking to make some cool magic items. I run through how I make my items stand out from the standard stuff that's in the DMG or any of the other books that we have as DMs to draw magic items from. But that's thank you so much again for watching. If you guys want to leave, if you guys have any question, right, we're going to do the outro again. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback about the video or about crafting magic items in 5e, please do go ahead and leave them down below in the comments section. We always read our comments. We'll try to respond to as many of them as we can. Other than that, if you want to follow us, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, or you can follow us on Twitter at the MicFlayers podcast on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over if that's something you want to do, and you can find us our long form podcast, the MicFlayer podcast, on all major streaming platforms. We do that every week on a Friday. It comes out at 6 p.m. Irish time. Currently it is on a break, but we will be back very, very soon. But in the meantime, we do have quite a large back catalogue of episodes with lots of really cool topics that we cover. So yeah, folks, just thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again on our next video. And yeah, keep playing D&D.